Welcome to Wilder Wolves Hall of Fame Mode Fandom. My name is Wilder Adams, and this is a new episode of Wolves Fandom Friday. And today I am joined by Reed Benjamin, a big Minnesota Timberwolves fan. You can see it in his background right there. You could tell he bleeds Minnesota Timberwolves. Reed, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I think we're all, trying not to overreact to the last few games, right? With the really ugly one against the New York Knicks. And before we really get into the meat of the show, just like how has it been just adjusting back to Timberwolves basketball being a part of your everyday life?
It's been great, honestly. I don't ever get too high or too low with them, especially till like the end of the season. We've just seen this movie so many times before. I feel like I just last year we started 10-10, we started 500. I'm not. Um, I just I'm always interested to see how everything plays out, like the ebbs and flows. I'm big into the interconnectivity of the team and the personality stuff. Like stats are cool. Like it's fun to like watch like how many points they're getting and stuff. But I really like to watch like the body language and like hear the stories in the locker room and stuff. Like that's the stuff to me that always like tells what a team is. And
Mm-hmm.
so and I feel like that stuff doesn't really come together until about like halfway through the season when you can really see how people are feeling about them, like the team themselves feeling about the team. So I'm pretty even keel and just excited to have basketball back in my life, honestly.
That's a very, very healthy approach. And I probably should even partake in that approach because I don't know if it's like, have you ever had like a song that you really enjoy and you listen to like 2,000 times in a row, and then you're like, okay, I need to get off the song. It's now just doesn't stimulate me anymore.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. I always feel like I've seen this film before. I'm not going to overreact. And then right when the off season gets over, and then football season starts, and there's important games every single week. It's like
Mm.
it's like hearing the song all over again. It's like, okay, I am trapped right back into this emotional roller coaster. So
Yeah. I,
I'm
I definitely have that when the game is happening, I'm definitely there where like the Knicks game where it seemed like the Knicks got like 10 offensive rebounds in a row, like 10 possessions in a row. I was just
Mhm.
like, get the ball. But like I'm definitely the type of person that's standing in front of the TV, like watching as things get tight. But once the game's over, I'm like, I'm not the person usually that goes to Twitter and is like freaking out about it. Maybe like during the game, I'll be like, wow, like they could just get an offensive rebound would be great. But like
Yeah.
once the game is over, I'm like, all right, well, let's see what happens next game. There's always gonna be adjustments. Players gonna play better, play worse. Like there's just so many variables that go into each game that it's like you never know what's gonna happen. And so I try to like stay in that place of like, okay, like literally next game is the next game is the next game.
Mhm. That's a great way to
Is this
keep.
gonna is this gonna be the game they figure it out? You know.
They capture the suspense, and
Mm.
I I think you probably have the healthiest approach ever. So I think that's really fantastic on your end. I got to work on that. So yep, you'll definitely be an inspiration for that. And so in every episode of Wilder Wolves, we do something. If you haven't listened to the show yet, everybody, it's called or Hall of Fame Fan Moment, which is essentially I'm going to ask you what is your Hall of Fame fan moment, and it essentially means that what's like the story that just stands out to you, resonates with you, that connects with you and your Timberwolves fandom, especially since there's a lot of ups and downs with being a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. So, Reed, my question to you is, what's your Hall of Fame fan moment?
I've been to a lot of cool games. I was there for like the KG comeback game, and I was the first game without Flip. I was there when Ricky tore his ACL that first year. I've got a few of those, but back when I was younger, my fandom was a lot more pure, at least a lot less informed, like as far as the day to day of what's going on with the Wolves and what's going on with the team and stats and all that stuff. When I was just in my preteens and stuff, and where I just listened to the Wolves game on the radio, Chad Hartman on the way back from basketball practice. And my Hall of Fame Timberwolves moment, I think, is I was behind the basket when Malik Sealy hit that game-winning three against the Pacers. And that was just incredible. I'd never seen a game winner, like most people haven't. And that was just like, I lost my mind. And I loved Malik Sealy. And I think it was later that year that he passed. So that kind of like extra sticks in my mind. But that was probably my favorite moment I saw as a Timberwolves fan was that game winner.
Yeah, may God rest his soul. And what year was that when he hit that game winner?
Oh, it had to be 99 or 98 or 99 because I think that was the year that he died. It was 98 or 99. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you are a Hall of Fame fan mode fan because you've seen it all going back from the 90s. Like, I started watching Timberwolves basketball a little later, around 2011, 2012, and I feel like I went through trauma. You went through a whole decade more of trauma than I did. So, man, shout out to your loyalty.
It wasn't really trauma back then. Like I said, it was a little more pure, and like we were
Yeah.
just trying to get over. I stopped watching for a little bit once KG left when it got really bad with the Rambus years.
Mhm.
And then when Ricky Rubio came to the team, I just heard the hype and I was just like, I wonder what this is about. And that's when I went back to watching 82 games a year. I plan my time around like if the Wolves are on. I have a radio show on KRSM on Wednesday nights, and sometimes like I'm gonna be late, guys, or I'm not gonna make it tonight because there's a game on. Or like the next game, I was like if it's bad, I'm gonna be late, or I'm gonna be on time. But if it's close, I'm gonna be late. So I know, but I got back into it around the time that you did as well.
No, that's incredible. And I love that you have an awesome platform to also speak Timberwolves basketball. And it's an honor to have you on the show as well. And to get started for today's episode, we'll just kind of reflect on this week because it was one where you had some bad basketball teams that you're able to dominate, right? The Hornets and then the Nets. And then we had that debacle against the New York Knicks, out rebounded 50-31. Minnesota's rebounding. The defense turnovers have struggled, but we've had a lot of the best starters on the team really show up offensively, notably Dante, Jaden, Randall during this stretch of time without Anthony Edwards. So my first question to you is just reflecting on this little stretch without Anthony Edwards. What has been your biggest overall takeaways of the team in his absence?
It's got to be Julius A, Jaden B, a little bit Dante, but really, obviously, I think the Julius thing was kind of coming either way. Maybe not scoring 30 every night, but like the other pieces. Because I mean, even when Ant was there for the first two games, he just his shot looks so comfortable and pure. Like it feels like everything he shoots is gonna go in right now, and then the playmaking, it seems like it's been like a extension. So I think that was kind of always going to come. It's Jaden, somebody having to take the shots, and Jaden kind of stepping in and doing that. I think is the biggest takeaway I have from it. I'm curious how much that effort is affecting his defense, or having to expend the energy. I was listening to the Dane and Chris podcast yesterday, and Chris was talking about like in video games how the turbo button goes down, like you're using it and then it goes down, and he's like with Julius. He was talking about Julius, but I think it could be true for anybody where you're expending so much on the offensive end that the defensive end might be lacking a little bit. I don't know. Jaden seems pretty well conditioned. He's, skinny guys like that are usually pretty good at keeping their energy up. But Jaden's scoring, I think, has just been like, it's the thing that we've all like hoped for, right? Like we've all been like thinking he can do this. And maybe it's a growing pains thing of like now that he's like really getting comfortable in his offensive bag, like how do we blend the two like skill sets together that he can be both so strong at. Like, how can he do both at the same time? And maybe it's just he's in the process of that. And but it's awesome to see him get that opportunity, kind of like last year when when the guys were all out and he was the top scorer. It's cool to start seeing Jaden be the guy that we think he can be. I just hope the defense can kind of even out a little bit as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Kyle Teige and I talked about that yesterday, especially just the crossing of paths between Jaden, the elite defender, and Jaden, the rising offensive star. That's going to be a big trend to watch throughout the season, and how much he can tap into that offense while also maintaining the defense. And I think it's a really good point you mentioned. Just, you can say it's stamina, but is that really the issue? Is it really the effort, or is there deeper context? And there's a part of me that's just wondering with this team, without just those energy bunnies like a Nikhil Alexander-Walker on the court, and those notable, like, just pure defenders outside of a Jalen Clark, because the defense has been so bad. In addition to that, is it just one of those cultural things where it becomes kind of deflating to give it all on offense, it'd be that productive, and then just have that feeling outside of Rudy Gobert, you have no backline help? Like, there was that play against the Knicks, I think it might have been third quarter maybe, where Jaden fought for a screen on OG Anunoby, and then he just kind of relinquished effort, and then he had a wide open lane to the rim. Like, that just doesn't look like Jaden. Even if Rudy had backline help, and that's what he was banking on, even though Randall and Reed were on the court, even if that was true, that is still not like Jaden McDaniels. So it's a really fascinating thing to watch.
I'm curious too about the like I was saying, like the connectivity of the players is like a big thing for me, and I really try to watch body language and stuff like that. And I'm curious if there's a little bit of like, with this team, especially with Ant and with Finch, I never worry about like the whole like Finch lost the locker room stuff. I think is ridiculous. I think that he's probably, if not one of the most, just like Ant, emotionally intelligent people that coaches in the league. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of like, somebody kind of lets something slide, somebody else then lets something slide as far as on the defensive end. Like, there's like a kind of like a domino effect maybe of like of effort, or of like just on maybe on individual plays. I'm not saying like overall, but on individual plays, that there's like, oh, he's not going to give he didn't give his all, so I'm not really going to give my all. There's like a deflating feeling in that way too, maybe, that that guys are, and I think that's a big part of early in the season too. Like, I think this is related but not. I think with Finch, I think in basketball in general, like training camp continuity, yeah, there's continuity, but everybody's still got a kind of a new role with the way that the pieces are moving around. And I think that just in the NBA, like especially with a coach like Finch, who's really like a puzzle piece guy, he's always like finding where everything kind of fits together. And I think you can't do that in training camp. You have to do it when you're seeing it live action against real competition that has scouted hard against you. Even in preseason, they're not scouting hard against you. Like, you really have to like, they always say there's no substitute for live reps or for an NBA game. And I think, and they usually say that about conditioning for players, but I think it's true with like, especially with a coach like Finch, is why I think we've seen it fall into place every year, is that and that's why he doesn't really panic, I think, and why he doesn't seem super mad during these press conferences, is he's like, I have to like see where these different things go in their different slots, and there's no way to do it until he sees it during the season.
I totally agree. It's almost, this part of the season's so funny because it's the time of the year where a lot of good teams panic, and then the Washington Wizards start the year 9-0. We had that a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's totally true. And every team has different coaching approaches to the game. And I think Finch, what we've seen the past few years, is a very patient, just kind of watch it play out and then adapt type style. I mean, we could go back to 2022 when we had D'Lo, Cat, and Ant, and You're trying to figure out Vando and Beverly. And early that year, we're trying to pivot the starting lineups. Is Beasley there? Is Beasley not there? And then that second half of the year, we really realized, wait, this Minnesota team is offensively associated. That's their identity. So
Mm-hmm.
second half of that year, they're the number one offense. Or it took
Mm-hmm.
year two, but that second Rudy Gobert team, we're a slow team. We're not a great offensive team, but holy crap, we're big. And then they're the number one defense. And that was actually, I think that year, the second Rudy year, is the only year I can remember this team starting exceptionally well with Chris Finch. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely something to the idea that he takes a more patient approach, kind of pivots, tweaks things on the fly early in the year. And then this part of the year, this is when we're panicking and making crazy pods that look stupid in 4 months. And then in the future, it's like, oh, that's what he was figuring out. And we're seeing a lot of communication issues, even on offense, the turnovers. It feels like some of them, in addition to just this team has some turnover DNA, but a lot of it looks deliberate. Like I'm trying to push the pace. Ooh, that
Mm-hmm.
was maybe not the right time. Ooh, miscommunication, wasn't expecting it. There's a lot of that going on right now. So I think it's a great take on your end. This might just be Finchy just figuring stuff out. And this is why like this communication stuff isn't too worrisome yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that they're they're figuring out kind of what doesn't work on the fly, and like they have all these options of how they're going to push the pace now, and they're like, all right, well that's not going to work, and that's going to work, and kind of like whittling it down to like what we are, and it's crazy with how panicked everybody gets about Finch, because it's like he's obviously a coach that has like a vision of how it's going to work out, and every time he's had a vision, he's been like with Julius, with Rudy, he's been like, I know, he's basically been like, I know what this can be. I know what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we've lost in Western Conference finals against incredible teams, but like how many times has his vision not come to fruition in some way? You know, it's like even like we were saying that Pat Bev year, it was like the way that they started that first half, I was taken just completely by surprise that with the way that second half went. I've never seen a team do that, be like okay to just incredible like that. And that was really the first year I was like, okay, maybe this guy really does know what he's doing. And that was when I started kind of believing, and because I was really mad when they fired Ryan Saunders, just because I'm just Timberwolves and a Minnesotan. You know how Minnesotans are. We love our people. So
One of us.
and yeah, exactly. But this was just, which obviously was they were terrible with Ryan, but yeah, he really like sold me. I've never been more of a fan of a coach than I am now. I'm literally wearing my Jake's Graph Finchy
Oh, that's sick.
hoodie on right now.
I love that. No, that's so cool. And I think that was definitely the year where we were like, okay, Finch really has it, because that first Timberwolves year, when it was Ant's rookie year, there wasn't much opportunity. That team stunk. We were aware of that. We're all wondering, is Evan Mobley a Timberwolf next year? There was a lot going on that season, but even that year, I thought they started really stacking wins with Finch at the end, and it kind of pulled us out of Evan Mobley, but it built going forward.
Yeah, and Ant's, I know Ant's stats, started jumping quite a bit. I don't know if it wasn't just Finch, obviously. I think they had started going up as the season went on, but they definitely extrapolated like as time went on, and I think that he had to have some effect on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very fascinating to see what the identity of this team is, because that's a really good thing Finch does. Seems like he has a really good knack of watching what fails, like you mentioned, and seeing what is the thing that makes this team special and leaning into it. And
Mm-hmm.
a part of me, and it's 8 games in, so it might be early, it's been very easy and convenient to say this will be a defensive team because that's Rudy Gobert's team. But this year, the way it's starting, I mean, they're top 10 in offense and they can't take care of a basketball, and they haven't had Anthony Edwards. And on the contrast, Rudy Gobert led defense. I mean, it's not his fault because his on-off rating is ridiculous. They have 143 defensive rating with him off the court, but this is a bottom 4 defense in the league right now. So, of course, that has to be better regardless of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think there's a world where this is the first year the identity kind of shifts on this team with Rudy Gobert on it and it leans more offense, maybe pace and youth than it is right now?
Yeah, I completely do. I think I watching how all these players are hitting their stride offensively is really interesting, and especially if they're still losing. I completely agree with that Rudy is more. I think this is the first year that Rudy is going to be more of like a bonus to have
Mhm.
than like the most integral piece. And to be fair too, though, like Rudy's offense is looking better. He's catching more balls. They're looking for him more. I really like what they've been doing with Rudy. Um, I obviously he's never gonna be Kirby Puckett catching the ball, um, but I think that I like how they're using him. I like he seems more active when they do. Obviously, he
Mhm.
seems more engaged, and they still need him for sure. I mean, like you said, the defense has to be better, but I do think the same thing. I think that the offense is what's going to drive this team, and they need a Rudy, and they need these auxiliary pieces like Jalen and stuff to kind of fill in those holes because we're going to need it. But I think that the pace and the offense and the three, I think it's going to be a big 3-point shooting year. Look at how many Julius is starting to take. Obviously, Dante's in a rhythm right now. Ant's never not going to take threes. So
Mhm.
and Jaden's three. That's one of the things that Jaden really like. He's looked less to defer, which is great when he's driving, but his
Mhm.
three is looking really good too.
Yeah. I mean, before last game, they were I'm not sure where it stands after the next game, but I'm pretty sure they're number 1 in 3-point percentage beforehand. So, I think, like you're saying, just the offensive creation on this team is just much better than it's been the past couple years, whether it's a Randall, whether it's a Nas, whether it's just, the 3-point shooting barrage when you also throw Ant in there, Dante in there, Nas when things start trending in the right direction for him. It's gonna be very fascinating to see because, of course, this team can't beat the 27th ranked defense in the NBA
Right.
regardless. We can say this is an offensive team, but frankly, if this team isn't approaching top 10 on defense, third straight Western Conference Finals, that doesn't seem very much in the picture. If that doesn't change, how optimistic are you that the defense can get into back to form enough for this team to reach a high potential?
Um, I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be like it's been the last few years, top 10, or maybe it will be approaching top 10, high, high in that, or right outside of it. I think it can. I think the connectivity of the players and understanding their roles is really a big piece of it right now. Everyone's kind of
Mhm.
like Dante moving in the starting lineup. It's the whole like defense on a string thing where like if one link in the chain or whatever is not um, connected, it's not going to work. And I think that again, even though it's the same players, I think it's still new as to how everything fits together, especially without Nikhil. Um, I think that is really going to be what makes it work. I think we have super capable defensive players. I think Dante's a really good defender. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how aggressive he is on defense. Uh, I think that they have. I really think they have the pieces that they need. I think it's just putting the pieces together, and I think that's again like the we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see it come together throughout the season. I'm pretty confident that that's gonna happen.
They were talking a lot in training camp about the importance of having that defensive identity, and I don't think at this point of the season that would entirely change, right? And
Yeah.
like you're mentioning, communication's a big deal. Effort is a huge deal. I think the rebounding is a big red flag to start the year, but it's also a very solvable red flag. And if they address that rebounding, it would make a lot of sense to think that it has correlation between the effort which would eventually have correlation with the defense. So I agree. I think they have the personnel. I mean, Nikhil is super important to this team, but it's down one player, and they have athletes all
Yeah.
over the roster. So I
The,
totally agree.
yeah, the rebounding thing is kind of where like I kind of, and it's something that you just said in the previous part is to relate it. I think the rebound is really the thing that they need to address if they were looking for something. I don't think they need to go get a point guard at all, and we can talk about the rumors in a sec.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think that they need to go get a point guard. Like you said, like the shot creation, everything is already there. Like
Mhm.
they have. I was even from the first game. I thought it was super cool that like Jaden's bringing the ball up, that Dante, that Nas, that everybody can bring the ball up. It doesn't really matter, and that's kind of how the NBA is anyway these days. But I just think like what these guys know how to get into an offense. The
Mhm.
offense is not super structured play wise anyway. We don't need somebody being like blue 42, like we need guys that know how to make the right read, and that's what these guys all seem to be learning how to do. And again, I love Jaden bringing the ball up, gets him more involved in the offense in general. He's automatically not standing in the corner, which I know can be discouraging. And he's fast and he's hard to guard in like an open floor situation like that
Mhm.
because he's so fast and his dribble so long, his stride is so long. I loved that. I was just like, look at Jaden. They did it like 4 or 5 possessions in a row in that first game. I was just like, oh, like this is different. This is not let's find Ant, let's find Mike. This is hey, whoever's got it, go. Like it was even more so than what they were saying in training camp, where they're like, we got to get it to Mike and then go. Like no, they're just going, which I love.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty in the modern NBA when you have so many players who could dribble the basketball. I think that was the thing that held the team back last year, right? Against OKC, when you have so many point of attack defenders and you have to play high and you don't have enough creators. So the development of a Jaden and just getting as many ball handlers on the court as possible. No, I totally agree. That's going to be a big advantage if this team can fully tap into that. And you mentioned it, so I think it's a good time to transition a little bit because it's November. Timberwolves 4-4. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about trade rumors. That's just what we do in the NBA. And
Mm-hmm.
the Athletic reported that the Timberwolves will be monitoring the Ja Morant situation. And there's a lot of Ja Morant drama, from the suspension to some comments he's made to just Ja Morant's entire existence in the NBA the last 6 years. What do you think of the Ja Morant rumors, and should Minnesota consider acquiring him?
um, I don't put too much stock into them. I think that it doesn't seem like a Tim Conley move to me at all. Like he doesn't seem like the type of player Tim would go for. Tim is really emphasized, not saying anything about Ja's character, but even just like the stuff in the media, like these comments and stuff. Tim has always emphasized like we go for good guys that can play basketball, like guys that are gonna gel and fit. So that's the first thing that makes me be like, I don't think it just doesn't seem like something he would do. I also just I don't think it's what we need. The things that I think we need right now are um, we need defense, we need rebounding, and we need connectivity between the players. And I think he doesn't he doesn't fix any of those problems. Um, and one point that I've been making on Twitter on these posts is that his whole I was reading an article on the Athletic about this, and his whole problem with the new offense and the way that the new offense was implemented last year was that the ball was taken out of his hands. And there's no way in the world that Ja Morant is going to be the primary ball handler on this team with Anthony Edwards. It's just not going to happen. So he's not going to be happier here. I don't think so. It just doesn't seem like a fit. Ja's a great player. Can't, I hope he can stay healthy at some point in his career, because that's another concern. But I just don't think he fits with what we're trying to do, or with what our the places we're lacking are. And I just think that I think for a team that preached consistency for a month and a half is not going to blow their team up to get Ja Morant. It just doesn't. It just does. It just goes against everything that they've been saying. And yeah, they like you said, like they've been preaching defense too, and have not been really doing that. But I just think that it's super unlikely, and I would not sign off on it if it was me.
Yeah, I totally agree. First of all, I am not a huge proponent for Ja Morant at this point in time, probably ever. Obviously, if they traded for Ja Morant, I will put my biases right in the front and try to convince myself it was a good deal. That's what we do as fans, but
Mhm.
I think you pointed out properly. Of course, there's this thing, this team needs a point guard and he might be the best available, so mismatch kind of connect the two, great. And there's also that social media sensation, Ja Morant and Ant, dynamic personalities. But like you mentioned, just because they're dynamic personalities doesn't mean it'll mesh, that it'll align and fully create a synergized form of this team. Ja Morant has some maintenance. He has a
Mhm.
lot of maintenance, whether it's the off court stuff, whether it's even just being healthy on the court, to literally in locker rooms, if he's disagreeing with the coach, disagreeing with the player. We just saw it. The team suspended him for his behavior in the locker room recently, but I honestly think that's probably stacking up recent experiences rather than just that one moment. So there's a lot of drama with the jaw thing. And then you also mentioned this team wants to defend. He's not going to help there.
Mhm.
And then there's also the floor spacing question. Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, just assume two of Randle, Rudy, and Jaden are on the team if they made such a trade. Spacing won't be that pretty. And then you're also sharing the ball with Anthony Edwards. And since his pick and roll percentage has gone down gradually the past couple years, you're expecting that to change with Anthony Edwards. And if you're Ja, clearly he's affected by that. So I see so many more reasons for why this would fail rather than succeed. And the only like glass 1/8 full is the well, he and Ant like each other, fun personalities, and it would be dynamic and maybe just the dynamic nature and you know, great player meeting great player. Maybe that would make both players adaptable to each other. That's the
Mhm.
only way I would see this work, but I would not bet on it.
Yeah, it would certainly be interesting. It definitely would not be unfascinating. Um, but that's a good. You just made a good point too that I hadn't thought about. Is Ja's like one of the rare guards that doesn't shoot super great, and a lot of his work is done at the rim, and with which was kind of the problem with the two center thing and like the Rudy thing with Ant was like if he gets to the rim, and thankfully Ant has expanded his offensive game in such a way that that's not really a factor anymore at all.
Mhm.
But Ja has not done the same thing, and so that whole that whole clogged paint thing would the problem that we solved would all of a sudden become a problem again, you know?
Yeah, that I just don't want to picture that. This
Yeah.
team has had enough years where they can't shoot the basketball, and Ja and Ant, it's a fun personality thing. Like, don't get me wrong, tickets for the first 20 games would be great at Target Center. They would be sold out, and people would be talking about them on First Take
Hmm.
and Fox and all of those major sports platforms. So there is a media intrigue to this, but then you also capitalize on another great point earlier. Tim Connolly, yeah, maybe he's not afraid of making big trades, whether it's the Rudy trade or the Randall trade, but he's a very big cultural guy. He
Hmm.
always has been. And just because he is monitoring a situation doesn't mean he's going to jump in front of the car and say, I want the guy. He's probably just monitoring it. It just doesn't align much with what we've seen from Tim Connolly is a guy who tries to minimize the ego in the locker room outside of Anthony Edwards.
Hmm.
And whether you like or dislike Ja Morant, you can't deny a lot of ego there. So that just I I'm trying so hard to be the pro. I'm okay. I'm lying. I'm not trying that hard to be pro John Morant right now. But I'm trying to see the other perspective,
Hmm.
and I'm struggling.
Yeah, I think that it's Tim makes big trades, but he never makes them for no reason. Or like he got Rudy for a very specific reason, so that Ant could win, and he got Julius and Dante for a very specific reason. That cat contract was untenable, and that he could get two players that are playing great too. Like it's always for a reason. It's not because like he's never made a trade that I've seen that's been because this is going to sell tickets. Like Anthony Edwards sells tickets on his own. Like you don't need to worry about selling tickets. You win, you got Ant, you're gonna sell. Like and he yeah, I just don't see it happening. I don't it would be dynamic at first. They would certainly be the talk, but as soon as it stopped working, everyone's gonna be like, "Why'd you guys do that?" It's gonna for what, break up. And I mean, it's a lot of the people that are mentioned in this trade are like future pieces, and they're or pieces of our future, I should say. And I just don't see I don't see Tim working that hard to build a roster that's going to continue to grow for a decade. I don't see him doing all that work for all this time just to be like, let's just go get Ja. Like
Yeah.
that'd be fun. Like it's just the antithesis of what I think Tim Connolly is.
I've seen mock trades that had Rudy and Conley and like Dante and Robin, like a pick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on the value wise, I kind of get it. Like I get the value, but then that's like changing the entire personality of the team. That's
Mm-hmm.
you just traded your personality between Rudy, Conley, and Dante. So I agree. All the trades don't look great that I've seen.
And I don't see why Memphis would do something like that. Like besides maybe bringing back Mike for like a victory lap or retirement tour. Like I could see that, but like Rob is a poor man's Ja in some ways, minus the athleticism. Like I just don't see why unless they're going to completely rebuild, which I don't think they're going to yet. Maybe they will, but I don't see who they're building around right now to rebuild besides Ja and Jaren Jackson. But I think even like the Jaren Jackson ship's going to sail too, and then maybe they'll start rebuilding. But I just don't see like, and they can't get a pick from us that's going to be worth anything because we're good. I just don't really see like the benefit for them either. Though it is interesting that they fired Taylor Jenkins and Ja and Taylor were pretty tight. It seems like, and it seems like they're riding with the coach like a little bit versus Ja. So I think that regardless, I do think his time is up there, but I don't think the Wolves either. Also, I don't think they have the best package, and Memphis is not going to make a trade to help the Wolves either. Even though I don't think it would help, that if you're looking at it that way, I don't think they'd do that.
You mentioned it. I mean, at one point in time, these two teams felt like budding rivals. Like these would be the fun, intense teams that are young, dynamic, led by athletic guards. And just Minnesota has kept doing this, where they get to the conference finals. Memphis, number 2 seed, court case, injuries, don't like each other, trade Bane. It's been a very different path the last couple of years.
I was watching that new season of Starting Five the last couple of days, and I actually kind of forgot that Memphis was like the 2 or 3 seed for a lot of last year. They just feel like they've been bottoming out for a while, and I completely forgot that they were even like they've been okay because they just seem like they can't get it together.
No. Yeah, we saw last year, like you mentioned, before All-Star break, I think they were the 2-3 seed. And then the year before, it was the injury season. They got Zach Edey, 9th overall that year. But then a couple years prior, they were the 2 seed, and people thought they were the team in the West before OKC emerged and also Minnesota emerged. So, yeah, the Ja Morant situation is going to be fun to monitor. Hopefully, Minnesota's not too involved into it. But if they want to be in there and facilitate a 3-team trade, I'm cool with it. And for those who are pro Ja Morant, if he gets traded here, I'll keep an open mind.
I'll be watching either way. I'm never not going to watch. I watched Mikhail Jelabal. I'm watching. Though the one other thing I was thinking about related to this is that season where Ja was out for a bunch of time and Tyus kept the ship sailing really
Mm-hmm.
well. Everyone's kind of made it. It's always been like, wow, that's how good Tyus is. Tyus is like a starting level point guard, and the more that time goes on, it's kind of seems like it seems as much of more of an indictment on Ja, maybe, that he's maybe not a winning level player, that he can be replaced by a player that is a good, floor manager, but he's not. He's 1/8 of the talent of Ja Morant, and um, I just think with time now, it's different than it was.
Yeah, totally. It's just, I mean, I think that Memphis team also realized that too, because they started
Mm-hmm.
leaning away from the heliocentric offense. And that's another thing with the Ja thing, just a league that is transitioning more to multiple ball handlers, being led by giant wings, putting all of that money into a small guard who wants the ball in his hands a lot
Mm-hmm.
and is also not going to add much as a shooter or defender. Just doesn't feel like the best bet. But Reed, this has been just an incredible episode having you on and going through all the ups and downs of the Wolves right now. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I've been really hoping to do a Wolves podcast for a long time. I love talking about the Wolves, and I just appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You want to tell people where they could find you?
Yeah, I am. You can find me on Wednesday nights, 9 to 11, on KRSM FM 98.9. We also have an app. We're online. You can find me on social media at Reed Benjamin with two N's at the end. And then I also am a hip hop R&B artist. You can find all my music on all streaming platforms under Reed Benjamin.
That's incredible. You're dynamic. You're talking Wolves every week, and you're doing it, man. You're doing it. Awesome. Congratulations. It's always
Hey,
great to have such knowledgeable fans on the show every single week. If you guys want to be on Wolves Fandom Friday, this platform is open to everybody. All you have to do is DM me Wilder or What's on Tap NBA on X. It's early in the morning, and then email me wilder@wilderadams.com. Either option works. Just tell me you want to be on the show, and we'll make a time and we'll make it happen. So thank you, Reed, for being on the show. And thank you all so much for listening to Wilder Wolves. This is Wilder Wolves, Hall of Fame Mode Fandom.